Um, so hello everyone. In this session we will discuss consumer behavior and then slowly we'll move to the demand and supply and the market mechanism of health economics. So as I said that we will try to give a brief introduction about or a brief idea about the uh, concepts of health economics. So and health economics basically deals with microeconomic concepts. So when we talk about microeconomics, going back to the previous session, we have learned that microeconomics is primarily deals with the individuals, the households, or at the small community level. So in consumer behavior, consumers are primarily the individuals or the households, or households, and these are the microeconomic agents or players. Yes. Therefore, when we discuss consumer behavior, we are discussing microeconomic concepts, and we try to understand through this consumer behavior that how or what happens behind the scene when a consumer or an individual tries to make their demand. So, or a demand curve. Yeah. So, how basically a consumer determines their demand or demand curve. Now, my demand for Rasgulla will be different from your demand. Now, I am from Bengal. I love sweet. I demand highly for Rasgulla. You may demand samosa. Yeah, but how we demand rasgulla or samosa, that's primarily comes from the satisfaction through consuming that particular commodity. Now in health economics, what is my commodity? My commodity is health care. Now my demand for a particular health care will be different from a demand from a different person, from a different socioeconomic characteristics or a particular state, geographical location, and so on and so forth. Several variables which are determining their health status, and finally their demand for health care. Now, this demand for health care will be derived from the satisfaction I get from that particular health care or the kind of health care I will require. I require that, I will get higher satisfaction. I don't require that, my satisfaction will be lower, or I don't feel that I require that, from my awareness my satisfaction will be lower, and my satisfaction is lower, again my demand curve is altered. We will see how demand curve is altered. Here when I talk about satisfaction, in economics satisfaction is known as utility. Utility. I will not take you through the nitty-gritties of utility. So, utility is basically satisfaction. It's the same thing. I should not keep this arrow. It's the same thing. It's satisfaction. In economics, utility is the satisfaction from consuming a commodity. A particular commodity. Yes, here my commodity is healthcare. Yes, now the healthcare can be an apple, if that is the necessity for my health. It can be a medicine, it can be a visiting a doctor, it can be availing an operation theatre, it can be anything. Yeah, or it can eventually be a cigarette. Yeah, because the cigarette determines my health care or health status. So, the total utility is the total satisfaction I derive from a particular process of treatment. Now, so we have a concept of total utility. To keep it simple, I will take you to the general examples such as consuming an apple or consuming a rasgulla or something like that, which is easier to understand, which we can actually see, So the total utility is the total satisfaction if I take 5 apples altogether. That is my total utility. Yeah. And the marginal utility is the incremental utility. Marginal utility is the incremental utility. Now, what does this word incremental means? Incremental means if I consume one additional unit of that particular commodity, one extra unit of that particular commodity, how much my satisfaction level, my utility level will change. Yes. So, if I can name my commodity as X and I can say Xi, I denoting, so my commodity as X, I will just wipe this out. If I name the commodity as X, and I is the number of unit I am consuming of that particular commodity. So, X1 means the first apple, X2 means the second apple, X3 means the third apple, so on and so forth. Yeah. So, my marginal utility, I can keep it as like this. Marginal utility is the delta U by delta Xi. Yeah. So, that means, or I can say marginal utility from third unit. That means if when I move from second unit to third unit, I take the third apple after consuming the second apple, how much change in my satisfaction level has happened. So, that amount of change, that increment, it can eventually be negative, right? That change in my satisfaction level based on this additional unit is my marginal utility. Yeah. So, if I get another clinic in my locality, how much satisfied, whether my satisfaction increases, whether my satisfaction remain constant or decreases, is will show if there is another dental surgeon's clinic, and whether my satisfaction is increasing or decreasing or keeping same. That will determine that will show my demand for dental clinics. If I am very happy, that means the condition of teeth are not really good. Yeah. Or if I am least bothered, there can be two things. One, there are already too many dental clinics. Second, I don't have a demand for I don't have a tooth problem at all, or anybody in my household. So, when I talk about there are already too many, so what happens, like how is it effective, or how is it interesting? In general, if we plot a particular marginal utility, I will try to show you with numbers as well. If I plot a marginal utility, then we can see that generally total utility increases. It increases from 0, because if I don't consume a particular commodity, I don't have any utility, I don't have a satisfaction. So, it increases from 0, increases, and then remains stagnant. Eventually, it may fall. Yeah, it won't fall, sorry. So, it increases and becomes constant. Yeah, this is my total utility with commodity X. So, when I consume one extra unit of apple or rasgulla, if I like that, first it is increasing, and then I am saturated, I don't want to anymore. Yeah. So, even if I kind of consume them, even if I am not liking it, it remains constant because it is not adding up to my satisfaction. Yeah. But it is a total. So, whenever I am consuming something, so it can be 0 satisfaction, but it cannot be negative satisfaction. So, it is not coming down. So, it will remain stagnant at a certain level. It won't go up anymore. Eventually, when I plot marginal utility, so initially it will increase and then it will fall and then it can go to negative. That means if it is negative, that means I am not at all enjoying, and even if I am taking my extra apple, it is actually not increasing my satisfaction, it is eventually decreasing my satisfaction, the total satisfaction. So in that part it can be stagnant or come down when it starts going down to 0. Now if I take this example, so when it is here, you can see it is stagnant at this point, and then when it is going down, it is negative. Marginal utility is negative. If I take an example, so say my consumption of apple is 0, and I have to take, the doctor has said that I need to take apple, that's my medicine now. I need to gain some kind of immunity, strength. So my total utility will be 0. I have not taken anything. If my apple is 1, my total utility will be say 40. My second apple total utility is 90. Yes, I don't like apple much. 2 apples in a day is more than enough. Third, I can take it as 125. Fourth, let's take 140. Fifth, 145. Sixth, 145. 7, 135. Now let's go to the marginal utility. So first 0, I have not taken anything, so there is no change. I just took the first apple. So how much change is happening with my satisfaction? So the change in satisfaction is 40 minus 0. If you remember, marginal utility is delta of total utility by delta of xi, that is apple. So delta of xi over here is, delta of total utility over here is 40 minus 0. The satisfaction I get from the first apple and the satisfaction I get without having any apple. So and the delta xi, the change in number of apple I am consuming, is 1 minus 0. So this is 40 divided by 1 is 40. So this is my marginal utility, the additional utility I gained by consuming 1 extra unit of apple. The second, when I take the second apple, the marginal utility is 90 minus 40 divided by 2 minus 1, because this 40 utility I gained from this first apple and this 90 marginal utility I gained from the second apple. So the difference in the consumption of the first apple and the second apple by the number of apples I have consumed. So again this is 50 by 1 is 50, and we can continue the same. So and if the number of apple is increasing just by 1 unit, so we can just estimate the change in the total utility, because that the change in the total utility is always divided by that 1 unit, because every time I am incurring a change in my total utility, that's primarily because I am increasing my consumption by 1 unit. So so I don't have to do any complicated unitary method. So it's like just the subtraction between the total utility. So I get here 125 minus 90 is 30 from the third, 35 from the third apple, and then for the fourth 15, for the fifth 5, for the sixth 0, 145 minus 145, maybe I am here on the sixth apple, here it is sixth apple, and for the seventh it has come down, this part is coming down, this part is coming down, minus 10. this is coming down, so this is 145 and this is 7, this is 135 and this is minus 10. Yes, here my marginal utility is negative. I don't want any more apple, my satisfaction level is going down. Yeah, so this is how I generally kind of measure my satisfaction level. Now, how do we get this number? These are very abstract, so your utility is basically measured as in a unit called util, but this is very abstract. Yeah, this is hypothetical, so you can give your own number. Yeah, so you can measure it in your own number. So, but otherwise there are two measures of utility. One is cardinal utility and ordinal utility. I am not going into that much. Cardinal utility and ordinal utility. Yeah, two measures of utility. In one, you can measure the utility based on some numbers, and in ordinal utility, you can order them, whether you have high satisfaction, lower satisfaction and all. So, ordinal utility. Thank you.